What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday, January 16th. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. You got your Google and Alexa home devices. And of course, the video stream, which is up and rolling on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But appreciate you making us a part of your starts on this Tuesday morning. What do we got on the good old game plan for us here? We got the playoffs. Playoffs are officially now set for the divisional round. That is after the Buffalo Bills taking care of business against the I was going to say Pittsburgh Pirates. I've got a little baseball stuff on my mind. Pittsburgh Steelers. So we got Buffalo, who will be welcoming the Kansas City Chiefs. Finally, Patrick Mahomes has to play a road playoff game here, but got that little rivalry. We'll see this weekend, and then with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking it to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, they were limping into the postseason, playing some awful football. And that, getting into the postseason didn't even matter. Didn't change anything because they were playing exactly how they were playing towards the end of the season there. So Philly is now out, which means the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will visit the Detroit Lions for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. So all matchups are set for the divisional round as we get set for that. Packers, we knew already that they were going to play Saturday nights against the San Francisco 49ers. Matt LaFleur chatted a little bit with the media yesterday. Not a ton of stuff, I would say, that we learned other than JJ, Kingsley Enagbare, is going to be done suffering a torn ACL. So that's a big loss in terms of the depth at their edge rushing positions over there. But and then plus, I mean, you look at the timing with when KJ tore it, you kind of wonder for next year when he's going to be ready to go and such. But yeah, definitely a big hit with no Kingsley Enagbare for the rest of this postseason. Matt LaFleur also saying yesterday that Packers are going to do a lot of walkthrough stuff. Going to do a lot of walkthrough stuff this week, trying to just stay healthy, remain healthy, trying to recover, and making sure that as many guys are available to play in this game on Saturday. So, other than that, not a whole lot of injury updates or anything like that with Jair and that sort of stuff. But with now us kind of focusing on the matchup at hand, going to do our 5 and 5. Okay, we'll do our 5 and 5. 5 reasons why the Packers will go into San Francisco and pick up the win. 5 reasons why, 5 reasons how, or 5 ways they can do that. And then the 5 reasons they won't. 5 reasons why this Packers team can't shock the world for another week, for a second straight week there. I've got my 5 and 5. If you would like to play along with us, please go ahead and do so, baby. All right, just hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. It is also a Raised Place What's Your Beef Tuesday. So what's your beef? What's kind of grinding your gears on this Tuesday morning? You can also let us know via the texting line over there. Best one we'll select right before 9 o'clock, and we'll put it in the mail certificate for you to get a free hot beef or hot ham sandwich from the iconic and legendary Raised Place over there. And you'll want to make sure that as soon as you get it, you want to hop on down over there because expires here in February. So go out there and get that done. Okay. Go out there and get that done. But best one, keep it appropriate so that I can obviously say it on the air and all that good stuff. But got something that's kind of grinding your gears or what's your beef? Let us know. All right. This is the time to do it. This is the time to do it. Hoops wise, we've got the Badgers, the newly minted 11th ranked Wisconsin Badger men's basketball team, with the latest rankings that dropped yesterday with all the upsets last week. All the upsets last week. Wisconsin moving up 4 spots in the latest polls and the latest rankings there. So just outside the top 10. But no surprise, UConn moved up to number 1. Purdue falling a spot. Kansas remaining at 3. North Carolina jumping up into the top 4. And then was, as we mentioned, Wisconsin there at 11th, the second highest ranked Big Ten team right now, with Illinois falling to Maryland the other night. They dropped 4 spots to number 14. Marquette, who had been riding a 2-game losing streak, dropping 6 spots to number 17, but they did pick up the win yesterday afternoon against Villanova to end that little game skid that they had been going on. But Badgers will be back in action tonight as they visit Penn State. Badgers looking to remain the lone undefeated team in conference play in the Big Ten. Currently 5-0 in the conference. Purdue, Indiana are the 2 closest teams to them right now. They're both sitting there at 4-2. Both sitting there at 4-2. Tip time is going to be a little bit of a later game tonight, 8 p.m. Wisconsin right now, that line is at 5.5, favoring the Badgers. Penn State so far this year just 8-9 and 2-4 in conference play. After that, the Badgers will return home to face Indiana on the 19th, a couple days from now. And then they got Minnesota next week, and then that rematch against Michigan State. So we'll talk more Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple hours from now, about 8:20 this morning. We'll talk some Badger hoops with him. We'll talk some Badger women's and men's hockey with him. We'll also throw a little bit of Badger football chat with him, get the latest thoughts on some of the latest additions in the transfer portal and such. So we'll chat all things Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple of hours from now, about 2 hours from now. So what else do we got on the good old docket for us this morning? Bucks, they're not in action tonight. They won't be in action until tomorrow when they visit the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll hit that game up in a little bit more detail tomorrow. So Brewers did announce that their internal Tinies over there. So I know we posted that was probably a couple days ago, but they did pick up a pair of top 25 international prospects over there too. So far, still kind of been quiet. I know we talked a little bit of it on Friday regarding the Brewers. They agreed to terms with a lot of their arbitration eligible players, including Willie Adames, including Corbin Burns, Devin Williams over there too. So other than that, still kind of fairly quiet. Still kind of fairly quiet for the Brewers, and for the most part, Major League Baseball here a little bit too. So, but hey, if anything happens to pop up here, we'll definitely keep you in the loop. But I would say it's a fairly quietish hot stove season when it comes to Major League Baseball. Maybe a little quieter than a lot of people had expected at that point in time, right? So, but that's what we got on the good old docket for us here this morning. So now we've got the divisional round in the postseason. I've got to get those new matchups put up on the website at sportstalk1051.com. I'll work on that later on today, but we'll have some picks up there for the postseason for the divisional round coming up here. I'm sure a lot of you did better than me, but I struggled a little bit in picks for the wild card rounds over there. Ooh, struggled a little bit there. So, but you look at this postseason so far. You've got the Cowboys out, you got the Eagles out, two teams that were kind of battling it out, maybe for a one seed, definitely for the NFC East, and now both of them out in the wild card round. And now you've got two organizations with Super Bowl aspirations, a lot of talent on there. Now question marks are, will they have their coaches? Or will they have brand new coaches heading into next season? There's a lot of talk leading up to this Eagles game that could the Eagles move on from their head coach, the way they kind of collapsed there and how this last game looked remains to be seen. But the big fish out there, if you will, Bill Belichick, it was announced by the team yesterday. First, it was reported by Tom Pelissero, and then the team shortly after that came out with like tweets or posts or whatever we're calling it these days, saying that the Atlanta Falcons did complete an interview with Bill Belichick for their head coaching position, which I still find that matchup, and I know that's been a match that has been talked about for the last couple of weeks now. And I look at it and I get it. They've got some intriguing young talents. Jesse Bates over there on the defensive side for safety, but intriguing young talent on the offensive side with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, et cetera, et cetera. But they got to figure out that quarterback situation over there. And I know there's been some talk, could Atlanta make a run at Kirk Cousins if he's available, that sort of stuff. But that to me is, I look at that division, the NFC South, and I think it's kind of up in the air, kind of there for the taking. But they got to figure out that quarterback position, and I don't know. Still, that one that'd still be really weird for me. Really, really weird to see Bill Belichick on the sidelines coaching the Atlanta Falcons. Boy, I don't know. So, but hey, let's get things going here this morning. We'll chat a little football to begin things, taking a look at the divisional round and all that good stuff here. But also, we've got our 5 and 5 to get to. Your 5 reasons why or how the Packers will go into San Francisco and shock the world and pick up another W, shock the world for a second straight week, and the 5 reasons that they've got no shot. They won't take down the 49ers. Packers right now 9.5-point underdogs in this matchup against the 49ers. So we'll take that first break and then we'll get things rolling here this morning. Talk a little football to open up things. Taking a look at these divisional matchups. Based off the wild card results, would you change your Super Bowl picks? Looking for that caffeine kick to get you going each morning and throughout the day? Well, that's pretty easy because you're looking for Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Whether you are in the mood for coffee, tea, or an iced energy drink, Cabin Coffee has something to help you get going in the mornings and throughout the days. Cabin Coffee also has a breakfast and lunch menu with a wide range of options for you to choose from to help keep you going throughout your day. Hey, don't settle for those low quality drinks and food to fill your energy void. Go for the fresh and the high quality stuff at Cabin Coffee in Altoona because you and your taste buds deserve that. All right, so wild card round in the books. Now we focus on the divisional round here for the postseason. Houston taking on Baltimore, Green Bay visiting San Francisco, Tampa Bay visiting Detroit, and Kansas City taking on the Buffalo Bills. Out of all those matchups, I think the one that is probably the least surprising, or if we asked you to make some picks at the beginning of the year for the divisional round, Buffalo and Kansas City might be the only one that people would have picked, or maybe would have been least surprised about if we would have like go back in time and hop in our DeLoreans and all that stuff and be like, "Hey, this is divisional round matchups. What are your thoughts?" And people would probably laugh at a couple of these or say, "You're what are you drinking early this morning?" and all that stuff. But that is definitely going to be the matchup that is probably going to get the most attention, the most fanfare heading into this upcoming weekend. Another matchup between Kansas City and Buffalo. Finally, Patrick Mahomes going to the road, hitting the road here for a postseason game and such. Buffalo pretty banged up on that defensive side there too, though. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but you look at these other ones, and that's do they have an early line? Let me see if they've got an early line on on this game right now. Buffalo 2.5. It looks like the spread that I'm looking at. So I mean, pretty darn even, pretty close to being even over there. But nonetheless, these other matchups, not to say that people are surprised that San Francisco or Baltimore or even Detroit's in there. It's just the teams that they're playing at this particular time. But when I look at these matchups here, the Elite Eight or the Final Four in each conference, however we want to term it. Outside of that Kansas City and Buffalo game, matchup wise, I think there's some storylines to kind of follow throughout these. I mean, the wild card weekend, I mean, you kept hearing about, oh, there's storylines for almost every single game. The script writers are having themselves a night, just might as well give them the Emmys and all that sort of stuff for best script writing or whatever. Maybe not as much for some of these games. I mean, I'm kind of looking at maybe the Tampa and Detroit one and struggling to kind of come up with something there. But I mean, at least Houston and Baltimore, you've got CJ Stroud and this young resurgent Texans team, a Texans team that was dead last just last year or close to dead last. They had a second overall pick. I mean, and a lot. You look at the last couple of years, and it has been just awful awful, awful stuff. They were recycling through coaches after every single year. They started to turn the tide by bringing in D'Amico Ryans to really change that culture, and he's done a fantastic job. He would have my vote for Coach of the Year. And then you look at CJ Stroud, and you see how the Texans were aggressive on draft night. Trading back up and getting Will Anderson. There's going revisiting that draft. There was a lot of talk. Could they go quarterback? Could they maybe bypass quarterback and maybe get Will Levis later on in the first round? Nope, they moved up and they got their top two targets right away in the draft and building blocks for this franchise, and they have skyrocketed, over exceeded expectations for this year. So a young and exciting Houston Texans team that is visiting a very exciting, a little bit more of a veteran-led Baltimore Ravens team, a team that a lot of people would say that is the best right now in the NFL. And for my vote, if I were to power rank them, Baltimore would be probably number one for me at this point in time. So you got a little bit of storylines there. Obviously, the Kansas City and Buffalo one going on over there. Green Bay and San Francisco, their storylines there. Again, the history between these two, LaFleur and Shanahan, right? All the familiarity between those two guys. LaFleur, a long time Kyle Shanahan disciple. Can the Packers somehow upset the 49ers in the postseason? The 49ers, who have been a team that has had success against Green Bay in the postseason. A lot as of late. Green Bay's won some regular season games, a couple here and there, but when it's come to the postseason, seems like whether it's Jim Harbaugh or Kyle Shanahan at this point in time, it's been the 49ers advantage. And when you look at this 49ers team offensively, at least, perhaps the most balanced offensive team in the entire league. I mean, you've got Brock Purdy, who threw for over 4,000 yards this year, is an MVP candidate. Christian McCaffrey led the league in rushing yards, over 1,400. You've got receiving wise, two receivers, counting a tight end. Okay, let me rephrase. One receiver over 1,000 yards, and it's not Deebo Samuel. It's Brandon Ayuk. Feel like Brandon Ayuk has kind of been maybe a little overshadowed this year, maybe overlooked just because of all the talent on the offensive side of things for the 49ers. Over 1,300 receiving yards. George Kittle, over 1,000 yards receiving too. So you got a 49ers team, and then Deebo Samuel's 892 receiving yards over there. So, I mean, you've got a 49ers team that's got a quarterback that threw for over 4,000 yards, a running back that ran for over 1,400 yards, a receiver that caught over 1,300 yards receiving, and a tight end over 1,000 yards. You look at rankings from the regular season statistically, incredibly well balanced for the San Francisco 49ers offense. You're talking number 4 in passing, number 3 in rushing, number 2 overall in total yards. Going to be a very, very tough test for that Packers defense going up against the 49ers. But you got storylines, right? You got stuff to follow there. It's, Lions and Tampa Bay is maybe the one that maybe struggle a little bit to find some common themes in there. But, Lions right now, I think are probably, when you look at this, if you don't have a horse in the race, if you don't have a team to kind of root for when it gets to the postseason, you probably have a lot of people hitching their wagon to the Detroit Lions right now. Kind of America's 2024 postseason team, if you will, at this point in time. So, but Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love. Look at some of these quarterbacks. Who would have thunk at the beginning of the season these would be guys in the Final Four in their respective conferences right now? Not the Cowboys, not Dak Prescott, not Jalen Hurts, not those guys. It's some of these youngsters and maybe some resurgent projects. Even throw Jared Goff in there too, if you want to talk about kind of a little resurgence at this point in time. So, but I think what so far these wild card matchups, what a lot of these games, and it's not to say it always works out this way, but I think what a lot of these games showed us is, again, just how much momentum and how well you are playing at the end of the season really affects how you go into this postseason. Can you, like, riding that momentum? If you're playing some of your best ball, or you're playing some really good football heading into the postseason, or I'm a big believer in momentum, so I think it's for any sport, but I think you look at some of these matchups or look at some of these results from the wild card weekend. You look at these winners, and you kind of look at how they ended their regular season, and you're like, yep, that team, they were playing really well. They were riding that wave, and they got in. They got in, and they won their first game. Houston Texans, look at the last couple of games. Titans, they came off that loss against the Browns, but they didn't have CJ Stroud in there. So they come back and dominate the Titans in their second to final week. And then they beat the Colts in a win and get in situation. CJ Stroud's been playing incredibly well. Really good football. Probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year, but riding that momentum, riding that wave. You look at, heck, even Tampa Bay. I know they kind of sluggish game against Carolina in that final game of the season, but you kind of look at their matchup against Green Bay, and that's kind of when things are like, oh, okay, Tampa Bay, hey now. Baker goes into Lambeau Field and puts on a perfect quarterback rating. They were that stretch, Panthers, Falcons, Packers, Jaguars, all wins. They lose the Saints there. They squeak out a victory against the Panthers. But they were playing some of their best football at the end of the regular season, the final month and a half. And then, we know Green Bay. We know the numbers. Turning point was, whether it was the Chargers or the Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions, playing their best football down the stretch, the final month and a half, final couple months of the season, riding that momentum into the postseason, and they pick up a big win. And then you look at a team like the Eagles playing their worst football, playing their absolute worst football, and they get trounced in the wild card round, dominated. I mean, I'm not a body language expert. I just follow the Twitter experts out there who think they're body language experts. But there definitely was a lot of chit chat about during that game last night about you could just for a lot of people they could tell like no, Philly didn't look like they wanted to be there. Nah, they didn't look like they wanted to be there. And again, momentum wise, Buffalo, they were supposed to be dead, out of it. Heck, even going to the final game, they could have been out of it. Now, they got a little help throughout the day before their matchup that Sunday night, but there was that scenario opening up on Sunday like, hey, lose, they could be out. Win, they could be the 2 seed. And they looked like they were potentially going to be out. And what do? They rattle off wins against the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins to get into the postseason. Momentum. Playing your best ball at the end of the season. It's never... How you start is a big factor. You want to start off on a good note. Absolutely, you don't want to dig yourself into holes when you begin seasons. But it's how you're playing down the stretch, how you're playing leading in to the postseason. That is such a huge factor. I'm a big believer in that. I know there's some people out there who don't buy the momentum argument, don't buy how well they're playing heading into the postseason. I think if you look at the wild card round this year, you can see a lot more examples of how much momentum means than it doesn't. And maybe that's the biggest chance that a team like Green Bay has going up against the 49ers. Can Green Bay continue to ride that momentum, continue to ride that confidence they're building? Can they continue to play some amazing football and go into San Francisco and pick up another upset? That might be the biggest factor for Green Bay, or the biggest reason maybe Green Bay goes in there and gets the upset for a second straight week. Is that momentum that they got going on right now? Is that groove that they're in here? And it's not to say San Francisco's not on it either, because when they went through that stretch, where they lost 3 games in a row, Browns, Vikings, Bengals, things were looking down. People were already like, oh boy, Brock Purdy, what's going on with him? What's going on with the 49ers? What'd they do? What'd they do after that 3-game losing streak? Well, they rattled off a 6-game winning streak, beating Jaguars, Buccaneers, Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks, Cardinals. Then they get dominated by the Ravens in that game, come back and beat the Commanders, and then pretty much sit everybody for that final game against the Rams. But there's one thing that this wild card round, I think, kind of proved is how big of a factor momentum and how well you're playing in that final month of the season. That really is a big kind of, we can break down the numbers, we can break down statistics, we can break down all the stuff. The one thing you can't have these advanced metrics for and these grades and these rankings for is confidence, momentum. That's just within. And a lot of these teams feel like that's why it's propelling them to pick up some of these big wins. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, I'll get you, or I shouldn't say I'll get you, but I'm going to go through my 5 main reasons why Green Bay will go into San Francisco and pick up the W. And then to balance it out, the 5 reasons why they won't. So it's the 5 and 5. All right. It's the 5 by 5. I'll get to that in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more football chat coming up in just a few minutes. It's that time of year where we may be stuck indoors for a bit with these colder temperatures and such. So you need to make sure that your pantries, your refrigerator, your freezers are all fully stocked. How do you do that, though, while also saving some money? That's easy. Just stop on over or just shop on over to Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, whether it's stocking that pantry of yours with some soups or dried goods or loading up the deep freezer with pizzas and frozen foods. Hy-Vee has the best selection to help keep you stocked during these winter months. Or if you just need a quick bite to eat, you can just grab something from the food court or the deli area. And with their Hy-Vee perks, you'll also save some money at the register and the gas pump. Stock up on your favorite grocery items and save money with Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. All right, so we've got about, what do we got, 16, 17, whatever minutes left to the top of the hour here. Joining us a little bit earlier this morning is going to be Joe DeGuano talking some more green and gold. Right now, as the Packers get set to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Biggest thing that jumped out to you from that performance against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, besides the win, of course, Joe?
I think how open the Green Bay Packer receivers were and tight ends in the game. It just seemed that LaFleur probably dialed up his best game plan, but then the execution, I think, was just so huge. I tweeted it out at you this morning, and we talk a lot about LaFleur and we talk a lot about Goody's drafting of these players. But when you look at Stenovich, offensive coordinator, Jason Vrabel, wide receiver coach, who's also the passing game coordinator, Luke Butkus, offensive line, Tom Clements, quarterback coach, John Dunn, tight end coach, and Ben Sermons, running back coach. All of those guys got their position groups to peak at the right time. And I think the job of a position coach is to continually teach fundamentals. And when you saw the wide receiver and the tight end, and again, a lot of that scheme, but a lot of that, Romeo Doubs, man, he can run routes. He sets things up so nicely. His body control, everything about it is so good. And he looks like he's a 7 or 8 year vet out there, but we forget he's only been doing this for 2 years. And then you look at the job that the offensive line did. And I truly think Rasheed Walker being there permanently has solidified a lot for that offensive line. But I thought Josh Myers played his best game probably of the year. I thought John Runyon has bounced back from some early problems. And, of course, he was being rotated in with Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins. Again, when you look at the position groups on the offensive side of the ball and how they were just able to dominate and continually get open and continually give Jordan Love time, I think that was really the biggest surprise for me. Other than it was just pure domination. It was pure domination. And Dan Quinn, who is the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, he is being spoken now. He's interviewing for head coaching jobs. So this is a guy that's respected around the league, probably going to be a head coach. And the Packers offensive staff just dismantled everything he did defensively.
How much, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but from a coach's perspective, to Matt LaFleur in that game to pull his best Matt Hasselbeck impression. If we win that toss, we're going to take the ball and we're going to score. But going into Dallas in that environment and aggressive defense to show that kind of confidence to his young offense, to his quarterback making his first playoff start. What kind of message? I mean, obviously it's a positive message, but as a player, as a coach, to have the gonads to go out there and make that decision, just how big of a message does that send? Maybe not just throughout the offense, but the entire team to say, hey, you know what? I don't care that we're, the underdog, that we're in their house. We're going to take this ball and we're going to start out fast and show them that we're going to play our style of ball.
Yeah, and I think LaFleur has done this now the back half of the year, and LaFleur continually points back to that Pittsburgh game. That he finally saw glimpses offensively that, this thing was going to work, and he's got the players and he's got the system now working together. And so ever since that Pittsburgh game, I think LaFleur has taken the training wheels off the offense a little bit. And I think that's a huge thing. When you've got a coach who basically says, you know what, and we go back to the playoff run of the Packers from 2010, and Aaron Rodgers talks about Mike McCarthy gave him the keys to the car. And I think Matt LaFleur is doing that right now where it's, look, I have 100% confidence in the scheme. I have 100% confidence that the players can run the scheme. And so let's go. Now, I think the other thing, and I thought it was smart from LaFleur, because this Cowboy offense can score points, at least traditionally through the year. And so what you want to do is you want to get up. You want to get that jump on an offense like that, because it's going to be very, very hard to get behind an offense like that. So yeah, I think this has been an evolution. I don't think this was a one game thing for Matt LaFleur. But if you look at the last back half of the year and remove the Giant game, because that was really an aberration right now. But when you look at what LaFleur has done, he has gotten very aggressive. And I think Jordan Love in this offense has gotten better. Matt LaFleur has gotten better. He's gotten more comfortable. So yeah, I think when you're a young guy and your head coach says, "Look, just go win this thing, man. You just go play football, have fun, play football. Let's go." That's huge. No matter what level you're at, I don't care if you're coaching high school, college, or pros. When you give your guys the keys to the car, their confidence goes through the roof, and good things will happen.
With, Jordan Love, I've been seeing, some of the national peeps out there saying I've never seen, or they've never seen a player make just these vast improvements throughout the season. I don't think anybody's, arguing the point that he's gotten better throughout the season, but has it been just that much of an improvement, or kind of going back to what you said too, was it just, Matt LaFleur saying, "All right, let's let it rip," and it's kind of a, hand in hand sort of thing. It's Matt LaFleur getting better. It's Matt LaFleur maybe, kind of realizing what he has with his offense and just opening up the playbook a little bit more.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's on LaFleur as far as the good stuff. I think when you look at the first half of the year, and in my opinion, I thought it was a very conservative game plan in most games. And people talked about Jordan Love can't throw the deep ball and all these types of things. And I think once they started working together, where LaFleur and Love and the rest of the offense started working together, they got at the same level, if you will. When you look at that's huge. And I think Matt LaFleur, look, he has proven a lot to me this year. He's proven a lot to me as an offensive game caller. He's proven a lot to me have the holistic approach of a head coach. He's proven that he can keep a locker room together even in adversity. So, the big question in Matt LaFleur's career, obviously, was how much was LaFleur and how much was Aaron Rodgers. And now you're seeing Matt LaFleur really growing up as a coach, I think, and offensive play caller, again, having the locker room, making the tough decisions, all of those things. Matt LaFleur should be in conversation for Coach of the Year. I doubt he'll get it, but he should be in that conversation.
There were some people talking about, and I don't know if it was, it kind of changed how the game kind of ended there. And I know Matt LaFleur, took blame for that, for kind of letting the foot off the pedal there with taking his starters out a little bit earlier. But there were some people kind of wondering, was Joe Barry saving his job with that defensive performance against the Cowboys, at least in the first half, first three quarters there? Do you think he can, if he goes into San Francisco and he slows down MVP candidates Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey and that sort of stuff, does he have an outside shot of saving his job?
You phrased the question well, because I still say today that he should not have his job next year. And I think it's better for Joe Barry, and I think it's better for Matt LaFleur. And so, you prefaced it by saying, if he comes out and shuts down San Francisco, can he save his job? I think at that point, yes. But here's the thing, Captain. I've been thinking about this. I don't think there's any question in my mind that Matt LaFleur is influencing now Joe Barry's defense. I think Matt LaFleur, that's the other area where I think he's grown up. I think Matt LaFleur is getting more involved in the defensive game plan. Now, I'm not at 1265, so I don't know that for sure, but it just seems when the wheels were falling off this thing, and Matt LaFleur was expressing his frustration with the defense and saying things are going to change, and then things started to change. And so I don't think this was Joe Barry on his own saying, okay, well, I got to change. I think this was Matt LaFleur. And the problem with that dynamic is you hire a defensive coordinator to run the defense. And so if you as a head coach are micromanaging the defense, then that's not a good fit. That's not a good marriage. That's not a good plan. So I still think that Joe Barry and Matt LaFleur need to part ways for the betterment of the two of them. I just think it's best for both that happens. Now, again, if Joe Barry does what he did in the first three quarters before garbage time on Sunday, if he does that to San Francisco, then yeah, you have to take a hard look at it. If I were Matt LaFleur, I would still be letting Joe Barry go this offseason. And so I just think it's the best for everyone involved. But yeah, if he pitches a shutout or pitches a close to a shutout or 14 points or less against the San Francisco offense, then yeah, you got to scratch your head and say, all right, whatever changed, it's working, and maybe we need to stay the course. But again, if I was LaFleur, I would make the change.
So the reason I kind of asked that, like a play caller, I'm setting up another play, another question
There you go.
coming up here. So, obviously after, a few weeks ago, there was a lot of calls. Should Joe Barry make that, or should Matt LaFleur make that decision in season to let go of Joe Barry? One coach who made a decision to switch up defensive coordinators in the middle of the season, it went the opposite direction. I'm talking about the Eagles right now. Sirianni going to Matt Patricia for defensive coordinator, and since then, I mean, that team just plummeted. And I was thinking about this last night. To me, this is an example of Matt LaFleur, because a lot of people speculated Matt LaFleur didn't have the locker room. But to me, a decision maybe like that where he held on to Joe Barry, and we've talked to a couple people who've been in the locker room and said the players really like Joe Barry. But to me, it almost resonated like an example of Matt LaFleur really had the pulse of his locker room. Like, he's got a grasp on the locker room, where maybe you look at the Eagles and Nick Sirianni didn't necessarily have the grasp of his locker room, didn't, have the thought of what the players would have thought of. And I just thought, again, this is another example of, all the naysayers out there about Matt LaFleur, of how well he has the pulse of this young team, and just how well I think this team respects him and follows him as their leader.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're seeing two different scenarios, and the wheels again just came off the Eagles train, man. I mean, Nick Sirianni, yeah, I think he has kind of lost this team, and it's great. Look, good times masks poor performance. That it's true in business. It's true in life. It's true in football, and so it's really easy to be singing everyone's praises and to feel like you got the locker room when you're winning. The real gut check, the real check on who you are as a coach or a manager or whatever, is when you're going through adversity. And for Matt LaFleur to stay the course during the season with a young football team, I don't know, Captain, if you've heard this. They're the youngest team, in the NFL, and youngest, in the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. So
I got to refill my scotch bottle now. So there we go.
So for him to do that and stay the course, that says something as a coach, that he believes in his ability to keep that locker room together and get this team over the hump. And yeah, I think you're seeing the example right there with what happened to the Eagles. I believe they were 10-1 at one point, and now they're going home. And so, yeah, I think that's a great comparison. It gives us all a lesson that if you believe in the process, whatever the process is, if it's coaching, whatever it is, if you believe in your process, then trust the process and stick with it, regardless of the naysayers, regardless of what's out there. Stick with it. And again, tip my hat to Matt LaFleur, another area of growth for Matt LaFleur.
All right. So before we let you go here, looking at this 49ers game, perhaps the most balanced offense in the entire league when you look at top 5 in rushing, top 5 in passing, and all that good stuff out there. How do the Packers go in and shock the world part 2 for this weekend?
Last week, you asked me that question. I said CeeDee Lamb is really the key to the Dallas offense, and you had to shut that down. It's not as easy with the 49ers, and you Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Purdy. I mean, you can't single out one person. So I think the easiest way to slow down this 49er offense is for the Green Bay Packers to continue to run their offense. If you can string together several long drives and keep that 49er offense off the field, that's going to be Green Bay's best defense. This is a horrible matchup, I think, for the Green Bay defense. And so the longer they're on the field, I think the harder it's going to be for them to keep up with the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best game plan is run Aaron Jones, keep the ball, 7-8 minute drives. Don't turn the ball over. These all sound like cliches, but I think that's the only way Green Bay can win this football game is if they control the ball, they control the clock, and they don't turn the ball over.
Mm-hmm. Kind of starting off the game like they did against the Cowboys, right? That perfect drive, 8 minutes, and come away with a tutty right there. Couldn't ask for a better
That's
start.
it. And look, I think the 49ers are going to win this football game. I do. But you know, it's so interesting, Captain, because here's the thing. You look at the comparisons now between this and the 2010 run. Both teams had to beat Chicago at home to get in the playoffs. Then their first game was going to be in the playoffs against the NFC East champion on the road. And then their next game in the playoffs is against the number one seed. And we all know what Green Bay did to Atlanta several years ago. And by the way, to finish that off, then the NFC Championship game was in the NFC North Division stadium. And so it's playing out very nicely, but I just don't see history repeating itself with this team. I think Green Bay keeps it close, but I see this game probably a 31-23 type of ball game with San Francisco coming out on top.
All right, Joe, we got to let you go before the shot clock cuts us off. So we appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of the week. And who knows? Maybe we'll have another Victory Tuesday to chat about next week.
You know what? I tell you what, I will say this. If Green Bay does pull off the upset, I don't see any way possible that this team doesn't go to the Super Bowl at that point. If they beat the 49ers, this team's going to the Super Bowl.
I like it. All right, Joe, we'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bud?
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You got it. There you go. There's Joe DeGuano joining us a little bit earlier this morning. There's the shot clock. 1 hour in. We got a couple more to go. Coming up next hour, we'll do some sports nuggets. We've got some Badger chat coming up later on. 5 reasons why. The 5x5. 5 reasons why the Packers will win. 5 why they won't. Second hour kicks off right now. DK Show up on the air. Appreciate you tuning in however you may be tuning in from on this rather chilly start to your Tuesday morning. Again, depending on where you're listening to us from, maybe it's a little bit, I don't know, warmer. Anybody in a warmer climate right now listening to us? I don't know. Tom from across the pond, what's the weather like over there if you're tuning in this morning? Coming up a little bit later on. Well, first of all, in a little over an hour, we'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal. Badger Hoops back in action tonight. The newly minted 11th ranked Badger basketball team. So we'll hit that up, talk some Badger hockey, and do a little bit of a quick update on the transfer portal. I know some moves have been made, more so last week, but we'll catch it up with the expert, Mr. RJ Cardinal, coming up at around 8:20, this morning. Also, it is a Ray's Place. What's your beef? What's your beef Tuesday? Hit us up with those texts on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. What's grinding your gears? What's your beef? Best one? We're going to try to make it better for you and send you a certificate for a free hot beef or ham sandwich from the awesome, the iconic, the legendary, the fantastic Ray's Place on Water Street in Eau Claire. I'll be stopping by, I think, later this week and having a little lunch over there, too. So, also coming up shortly, it's the 5x5. 5 reasons, in my opinion, 5 ways the Packers will go into San Francisco and pick up the W and shock the world again for the second straight week. Then the 5 reasons they won't. Besides what the score says on the scoreboard. Okay. We don't need some smart Alex out there. Let's kick off this second hour, though, before we get to all that fun stuff, with some more fun stuff. Let's kick off the second hour with some sports nuggets. 1896, the first 5-player college basketball game was played at Iowa City, Iowa. All right, first 5-player college basketball game. 1961, Mickey Mantle signed a contract which made him the highest paid baseball player in the American League, making $75,000 for the 1961 season. Let's go with... Oh, football-wise, I was like, wait a minute, what? Okay. St. Louis Cardinals announced that they would be moving to Phoenix in 1988. 1993, Jordan scored 64 points against the Orlando Magic in 1993. Baseball owners in 2002 voted to approve the record, at that time, $660 million sale of the Boston Red Sox. Those are just some of your sports nuggets for this morning. So, Badger basketball, as we mentioned, newly minted 11th ranked in the country after all those upsets last week with ranked opponents falling to unranked opponents. The Badgers moved up 4 spots in the latest polls to number 11. How about this for another nugget for you? Saw this yesterday. To begin the week, Badger men's basketball, number 9 in the KenPom rankings, number 11 in the net rankings. And there's only 2 teams in the country with 8 or more quad 1 plus 2 wins. That's Purdue and Wisconsin. Purdue's got 9. Wisconsin's got 8. How about that? Wisconsin right now starting to maybe get a little bit more national recognition. I don't, I saw some people like saying, on social media yesterday when the rankings kind of came out and such, and like, oh, finally starting to get, some more national. I don't know. I almost feel like Wisconsin's one of those teams. Like, let's say if they lose tonight to Penn State, people are just going to drop them down big time in the rankings more so than they would with another team. But hopefully Wisconsin can pick up that W and remain as the only conference undefeated team in the Big Ten. Right now, they're the only undefeated Big Ten conference record-wise team right now. Indiana and Purdue, 1.5 back from them. So, also forgot to note, but this popped up right before the top of the hour. Jason Kelce the Eagles center, longtime center, apparently informed teammates last night after their loss that he is retiring, that he is going to be stepping away and retiring. 13 seasons with the Eagles, won that Super Bowl when it was over there in Minnesota, 7 Pro Bowls, and a 6-time first team All-Pro. Probably heading to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in a few years. Probably going to be over there, but Jason Kelce not didn't take a whole lot of time to maybe think about it, but he is retiring and calling it a career according to reports out there. So just wanted to pass that along in case you are just tuning in, and that did pop up a little about 25 minutes ago or so. So, but if you let's say the NFC East right now, okay, you got the Cowboys out, Philly out, 2 teams out of the postseason a lot quicker than what they were expecting, what they were hoping, what maybe it looked like was going to happen. Maybe the Eagles, the way they were trending towards the end of the season, maybe thought a lot more people thought early exit. But there's a lot of speculation out there. Could those 2 teams be looking for new head coaches next year? Which situation do you think is better? Philly or Dallas? Which one would you roll with? You got Howie Roseman as your general manager in Philly. Got to deal with the Philly fans. Cowboys, you got Jerry Jones to deal with as your owner and general manager, in essence. Which one would you roll with? But talk about high expectations over there too. So I don't know. I still feel like Philly's not going to make a move with their head coach, but I think it's clearly evident that for this stretch, at least, they started off really well. They started their season off really well, and even their offensive coordinator Johnson over there is getting head coaching interviews. But you kind of have to wonder with Philly losing their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator from last year, how big of an effect did it have later on in the season here? So, but kind of a weird NFC. I shouldn't say weird. A lot of storylines with this NFC East as we approach the offseason for some of these teams. Washington, they've got their general manager, but now they're going to be looking for a new head coach. They're the first team. They were the first team to hire the general manager. The Giants, quarterback situation over there with the Giants. You give Daniel Jones a big contract last year. He gets hurt this year. Then they had the whole drama with Martindale, their defensive coordinator. But now they may be looking at the draft after giving a quarterback a ton of money last year. Maybe looking at drafting his replacement already with their first pick in this year's draft. So you got that. And then, Cowboys, do they make a move? Do they not? Another early exit in the postseason. And now with the Eagles, it's a drama-filled NFC East as we approach this offseason. NFL is a 24/7, 365, sometimes 366 day of the year sports over there. So, all right. So what are the 5 ways, the 5 reasons, however you want to phrase it? It's the 5x5 that Green Bay can go in and shock the world and defeat the San Francisco 49ers. I've got my 5. Did some digging, looking up last night, taking a look at this, trying to find not the easy reasons of just scoring more points or anything like that. No, we don't do that. We break it down. We look into it a little bit more. So I've got my 5 reasons why or how Green Bay can go in to California, to the West Coast, and pick up that W. And then to even it out, the 5 top reasons why they won't. Those are probably a little bit more easier to kind of figure out, right? Got an incredibly talented San Francisco team, as Matt LaFleur called them yesterday, kind of the class of the NFC right now. Kyle Shanahan, probably, would you say, the best current NFL coach to not have a Super Bowl championship? We always talk about like best players to not have a championship in whatever league, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, whatever. We always talk about that. But when you look at, coaches and, at certain points when they get, you know, into their careers, Andy Reid for the longest time was probably viewed as that guy, best coach to not have a championship. Marty Schottenheimer, all times probably on there. Maybe Dan Reeves too, if you want to look at it. But in terms of current head coaches, I'd say a lot of people would probably pick, and I'd put him at number one too. Kyle Shanahan is the best coach to not have a championship, a Super Bowl championship under his belt. Maybe after that, some people put Sean McDermott from Buffalo up there. Then you kind of look at it, and it's like, okay, who's next? Because Harbaugh's got one, right? Peyton's got one. Sean McVay's got one. So, but let's talk about this. Let's break it down. I've got my five. Couple of because I mean when you look at this too, when you're looking at it, an incredibly talented team like the 49ers, there's not a lot of cracks in the foundation. There's not a lot of holes in there to try to expand or try to expose. There's not. But you got to look at maybe some of the losses that this team went through, and three of their losses were in a row, and it was a little bit earlier in the season, so things changed, and obviously they've fixed a lot of their stuff there, and they had some injuries going on there too. But there's a couple of things that I think if Green Bay really does, like really focuses on, they got a shot. Might be some risks involved in it, but I think in a game like this, to quote Dan Fouts and Waterboy, last game of the season, can't hold anything back. Got to be a little bit more aggressive in this one. Might burn you, might reward you. Let's talk about it coming up in just a couple minutes. January means a couple things here in the good old state of Wisconsin. Maybe some tax time. Maybe you're starting to get those things rounded up, scheduling your meetings with your accountant, turning in and getting some returns. Also, as we're going through right now, some frigid temperatures and such. So, thinking maybe how do you combine, frigid temperatures, tax return? Where's Dan going with this? How about Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, heated floors? How many of you walking around in your homes right now kind of thinking, oh man, that floor there is really cold. Maybe got some tile over it or something like that. It's like really pretty darn cold. How about maybe looking at warming those babies up, whether it's in the man cave, living room, or something like that? Yeah, you can warm those up. Just head on over to our friends at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire to learn more about it. All right, stop in, talk with the awesome team over there. Look at different options. Maybe look at if you're thinking, hey, I got to update some floors anyways. What can I maybe add in to make those warm up in those colder temperatures? Carpet City Flooring Center. All right, go talk with the awesome team over there. Whether it's Ben, Jason, Aaron, you name it. The entire doesn't matter who you talk to over there. They know their stuff and they're awesome people there too. So with these colder temperatures, maybe it's got you thinking about, hey, I think we might need to add that to our home. Got a little tax return coming. There you go. That's the project we're working on. So good friends over there at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Check it out. Go visit them and learn a little bit more about some of those heated floors. I think that's what the wife wants us to save up for the next home improvement project in our home over there. So, all right, Surveyor Sam on our Ray's Place. What's your beef? You know what my good morning, DK. You know what my beef is? National media not giving any credit truly to the pack. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'd even prefer that they're flying under the radar. But all I heard yesterday was how bad Dallas played rather than how great Green Bay played. Just give a little bit of credit to the pack and stop complaining about how the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot. They were outplayed in all three phases, and it wasn't even close. There you go. Got surveyors. What's your beef? Got a couple more to get to. Send yours on over via the Shoe Doctors bullpen texting line, and we'll get to those coming up a little bit later on. Time for the 5x5. 5 reasons why the Packers will win on Saturday. 5 reasons why they won't, besides the clearly obvious ones of outscoring each other. So when you look at this 49ers team and you look at what they've done in the regular season and you look at some of the numbers that they put up offensively, and you're like, dang, you got a quarterback that's throwing for over 4,000 yards. You've got a running back that led the league in rushing, over 1,400 yards rushing. You've got a tight end over 1,000 yards receiving. You got a receiver that went over 1,000 yards, went over 1,300 yards receiving. And no, it wasn't Deebo Samuel. It was Brandon Ayuk, who I believe kind of maybe flew under the radar here a little bit, because I think if you ask a lot of people to name some of the playmakers or some offensive players on the 49ers, you're going to say Christian McCaffrey, you're going to say George Kittle, you're going to say Brock Purdy, you're going to say Deebo Samuel, and you're like, oh yeah, forgot about Brandon Ayuk. Dude went out there and caught 75 balls for 1,342 yards, averaged nearly 84 yards per game this year. Yeah, he's over there too. Juszczyk, one of the better fullbacks, if not the best fullback in the league. They got weapons. They got weapons. And they're well balanced. Kyle Shanahan and that entire offensive staff does a fantastic job of getting them involved, staying balanced, keeping teams guessing. Right? So you look at this and you're like, boy, that's tough. Not to mention perhaps maybe the best left tackle in the game, and Trent Williams over there too. So it's definitely a tough task. And they got a pretty solid defense over there too. A lot of the focus is on their offense, and rightfully so. Pretty solid on defense too. Steve Wilkes is getting some head coaching interviews. It seems like that's the one thing that is, I shouldn't say one thing. That's one of the many things that's impressed me a lot about Kyle Shanahan is I think this is his third defensive coordinator. because guys just get head coaching jobs. Robert Saleh was his first one. D'Amico Ryans. And goes outside and brings in Steve Wilkes. I know there's a little bit of adjustment there, but for the most part, I mean, you're talking about yards allowed per game, top 10. Passing yards allowed per game, they're about middle of the pack there. Rushing yards allowed per game, third best. Points allowed per game, third best. So, I mean, and Fred Warner's on defense. We know about Bosa and Chase Young when they made that trade and such. So they got players. So this is a very big task at the hand for the Packers. But there are they may be small, but maybe a couple of cracks in the foundation when you're trying to, the Bill Belichick approach of like, okay, trying to maybe limiting what they do best. And in the 49ers case, there's offensively, there's not a whole lot that they don't do very good, but maybe there's a couple of ways you could really try to expose this. And I think that's if you're Green Bay and you're sitting in those coaching meetings and staff meetings and coming up with your game plans. There may be a couple of things to try to really expose. But first, I think the main, maybe not the main, but the top reason or top way to come away with a victory or to improve your chances of coming away with a victory is stopping McCaffrey. We know from experience, Kyle Shanahan won't give a rip if he runs the ball 40 to 50 times and throws the ball less than 10 times. We've seen it in an NFC Championship game. If he's having success with it and the defense can't stop it, Shanahan don't give a rip about being balanced. If he can run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and they're having success with it, that man will stick with it throughout the entire game. We, the Packers, have been the victims of that. We have seen that. Do I got to remind you about the Jimmy G NFC Championship game? Matt LaFleur's first year. So if you can limit, you can slow down, as tough as it may be, but if you could try to slow down and limit McCaffrey, not necessarily, in the running game, we're really focused on that. But remember, McCaffrey's a very good receiver too, coming out of the backfield. He's a very good receiver coming out of the backfield. He's got 564 yards receiving this year. 67 catches, okay? 67 catches. Second most on the 49ers behind Brandon Ayuk, who has 75. He's got more catches than George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. So if you could try, I don't know if you can, to quote Dan Patrick in his ESPN days, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. If you can try to contain him and try to slow him down a little bit, you're putting yourself in a position to potentially, hopefully, maybe win this ball game. Christian McCaffrey, target numero uno on this thing. And staying with that, be aggressive. Be aggressive on defense. Take the fight to them. If there's maybe, we talked about Trent Williams, left tackle, perhaps maybe the best left tackle in the game, one of the best for a long time in this league. If there's a little bit of vulnerability with this 49ers offense, it might be their offensive guards. So if you can expose that, you could try to use that. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Slayton, Brooks, Colby Wooden. If those interior defensive linemen can kind of have their way on the interior offensive line with the San Francisco 49ers, generating that pressure, going at, stop it, clogging up the interior run lanes, they got a shot. And with that, when you look at some of these losses that the 49ers went through, Brock Purdy was turning the ball over. The big one was that Ravens game, and he threw 4 picks, and then everybody started to jump off the Brock Purdy train and all that. But you look at some of their other games too. Their loss to Minnesota, Cincinnati, etc. Brock Purdy was turning the ball over. If you can generate that pressure up the middle and making it a long day for him, and you're winning in the trenches there. How many times? I mean, it's a drinking game, winning in the trenches. But if you can attack those interior offensive linemen and get that pressure up the middle, Kenny Clark's going to go out there and have a day. You got a shot. You got a shot to slow down that running game. You got a shot to get after Brock Purdy, maybe make him a little uncomfortable, maybe make him turn the ball over. It's a risk to be an aggressive defense against a team, against an offense like the 49ers. We understand that. And if there's maybe been, I should say one, but there's been a few sticking points to Joe Barry or frustration points to Joe Barry's style of defense that Packer fans have had has been maybe not as aggressive as they would like to see. Maybe a little, you're looking at this and like, oh, he's going to play a lot of coverage, maybe some zone and the mindset of like, we're going to force offenses to have perfect drives all the time and come away with touchdowns. Okay, you may be able to do that against some offenses, but with perhaps the best balanced offense, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if that's going to work. I think you got to be a little bit more aggressive with this thing. It may burn you. What do you got to lose at this point? As Apollo Creed told Rocky Balboa in Rocky III, there is no tomorrow. You might have to just be a little bit more aggressive. Come after them a little bit more. Load up the box a little bit more. Bring that blitz up the middle. Don't let Brock Purdy be out there behind the line of scrimmage for 4 seconds, finding George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Don't do that. Another, speaking of which, I'm going to go to a little bit of the offensive side now here for the Packers because we've been talking a little bit of defensive for Green Bay. When I was looking at some of the stuff last night and looking at some of their losses, Minnesota and Cincinnati and, obviously Baltimore when they blew them out and such, and, Cleveland picked up a win against them too. One thing that some of those teams did was to test the depth at the corner spot for the 49ers. Now, they got a couple of good starters, solid starters at the corner. But after the top two, there's some question marks. Maybe in that nickel spot. They got Ward, they got Lenore over there, but after that, you might be able to expose that. That's where you saw like the Vikings or the Bengals playing a lot of at least 3 receiver sets and trying to test the depth of that 49ers corner position. And I think if you're Green Bay and you're looking at that as a potential weakness on San Francisco's defense, you got to be thinking we can exploit that. We've been talking about all the young receivers, Jaden Reed, Romeo, Watson's back now, Wicks, throw in the tight ends. I think you might have to kind of maybe spread it out. Have those receiver sets 3, 4. Probably going to see a lot of 12 personnel with Green Bay again in this game. 1 back, 2 tight ends. But I think Green Bay and I think Matt LaFleur and that offense, they got to test the depth at corner. Potentially maybe a Jaden Reed type of game. You're looking at that slot. Whoever that 3rd, 4th option is going to be for a receiver, there's a way to move the ball against that. 49ers got a lot of good players on defense. A lot of good starters over there. But there might be an opportunity to test that depth a little bit at that corner spot. So maybe some 3, 4 receiver sets there and getting the ball into their playmakers that way, their young receivers that way. And with that, on the offensive side, ball control. You couldn't ask for a better drive to start a game than what Green Bay had in that Dallas game. Couldn't ask for a better one. Nearly 8 minutes, drive at 75 yards, you come away with a touchdown. You took time off the clock. You kept Dallas's offense on the sideline. I mean, you came away with a touchdown. And then also ball control, not turning the ball over. Cowboys turned the ball over. Packers didn't turn the ball over. Ball control, time of possession, winning the turnover battle. And we kind of talked about it with Brock Purdy. If you could force those turnovers, you could force him to throw some picks. Now, on the flip side of all that, winning ball control. And then I think a factor that you can't really grade, you can't dissect, there's no statistics for it, there's no rankings for it. Ride the momentum. Keep that momentum going. Got a lot of confidence with this group right now. That offense, a lot of momentum. Matt LaFleur, play calling wise, seems to be in a groove. Again, seems like he's just a step ahead of some play calls, a step ahead of the opposing defensive coordinator, trying to play a little catch up, continuing to be aggressive on the offensive side too. I think you have to be aggressive on the offensive side, but just riding that momentum, using it, staying hot. I think that's a key, or that's a way for Green Bay to go in a hostile environment against an opponent that has had a lot of success for them. Is those 5 ways. Now, the 5 ways they won't. 1, it's pretty simple. 1, you can't stop the run. You can't stop the run. Christian McCaffrey's having his way. And as we said earlier, Kyle Shanahan will have no problem whatsoever if Christian McCaffrey's averaging 6 yards per carry, 5 yards per carry, whatever. He will just run it down your throat. If he has to do it 50 times in a game, he will do it 50 times in a game. If he doesn't pass for more than 10 times, he don't care. He will do that. We've seen it. We've experienced it. If they can't stop the run, it'll be a long, long day on the defensive side and for the game overall. If defense with that too, can't get off the field. You get in a third down situation, you get into a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. You can't get off the field, then the 49ers are going to continue to pick up those third downs, have a high third down percentage, win rate over there. Yeah, you ain't going to win this game. You get into a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and an 8, and you're not getting off the field in those situations, you ain't going to win this game. Turnovers, mistakes both on defensively, for one, just pop in my head, like a Kenny Clark one where it was 3rd down. You stop them, you're off the field. Nope, face mask on a face mask penalty you didn't have to really do. It was inadvertent probably, but still, mistakes. Can't have stupid mistakes like that. Can't have stupid penalties in a game against the 49ers. Can't do it. Can't turn the ball over. Offense can't get going. If you're turning the ball over quite a bit and you're having all those mistakes defensively, offensively, special teams, or the offense just can't get in because of those mistakes, the offense can't get in a rhythm, can't get in a flow, you're not going to win the game. 49ers, 4th. 49ers, like the Packers, do a lot of misdirection on offense. I mean, come on now. You're talking about the Shanahan tree here. 49ers play a similar style of offense to what Green Bay does. Misdirection. Formations that look similar where a bunch of different things can come out of the same formation. We've talked about poor communication on defense more times than not. Poor communication on defense will lead to a loss in this game. The communication has to be superb on the defensive front. Whether it's Quay Walker, whether it's Darnell Savage, who Matt LaFleur said yet the other day, one of their best communicators, that has to be on point in this game. 49ers going to use a lot of misdirection. They're going to have a lot of creative stuff in there. A benefit for Green Bay is this defense does practice against that a lot. They can. They've got a little bit of experience in this. The downside is that the 49ers are a little bit more experienced in this. They've got veterans in this thing. The defense has to have great communication, no lack in communication. Because if they do, the 49ers will expose that, and it could get ugly. Communication has to be on point for this Packers D. And then fifth, I'll just, we talked about can't stop the run with Christian McCaffrey. Fifth, George Kittle. George Kittle, again, another solid season for him. And over 1,000 yards receiving. Jake Ferguson had himself a good game against Green Bay. And I know a couple of them were in garbage time and all that, but even before that, he made some nice catches, former Badger over there. Green Bay's at times had some issues in, stopping opposing tight ends. George Kittle, one of the better tight ends in the league. If they're going to allow George Kittle to dominate, if they're going to allow him to go out there and rack up a bunch of yards and make some big-time plays down the field, across the middle of the field, it's going to be a long day. If him and Purdy get on that connection, who's going to be the guy to slow down George Kittle? Is it a guy like Savage? Is it a linebacker? Is it double teaming? Can you double team when you got Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel? Deebo Samuel's kind of a Swiss Army knife out there, lining up with the backfield, running the ball a little bit, passing game. But the Packers' history of struggling against tight ends could come back to bite them in this game too if they don't have success slowing him down. Special teams wise, 49ers, I was looking at, this is not a thing on here, but to kind of wrap it up, I was looking at special team stuff. And the 49ers kind of did some similar things in this offseason to the Packers where they moved on from a veteran kicker and brought in a rookie. And they had their issues in the beginning part of the season too. And I was looking at Rick Gosselin's always does a special teams ranking every year. And 49ers, for as good as they are, top 5 offense and defense, near the bottom in special teams too. So hopefully kind of evens out here a little bit. But again, if you want to say Anders Carlson for, that might be more of a key to victory when we get to that later on. Yeah, scoring may be at a premium again in this game, but maybe, just maybe slightly kind of even their special teams. I'd still take the 49ers special teams over Green Bay, though. I mean, Green Bay's ranked, if you go to Rick Gosling's rankings of special teams, Green Bay, I think, was 29 or 30, and 49ers are 22. So that's my 5x5. There you have it. We'll take a quick break. We'll wrap up things, or I shouldn't say wrap up things, wrap up the second hour. Coming up next hour, we got Badger Chat with Mr. R.J. Cardinal. We'll get back to some more Ray's Place. What's your beef, too? After these few words. New year, but still those same aches and pains. Do something about it this time. Make your appointment with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and start living that pain-free and healthy life. That way, when summer rolls around, you'll be able to enjoy those outdoor activities pain-free. Get started now by visiting cvosm.com to schedule your appointment. The entire team at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is dedicated to providing you with the care you need to get back to living your life pain-free. Again, visit cvosm.com to schedule your appointments, and Dr. Crow and the entire team there will take care of it. We'll help you out there. Not sure what this text, it just all it says is let's celebrate the offensive line. I don't, do you want a holiday or what I need a little bit more, on that, because I mean, well, we spent the first hour with Joe talking a lot about the offensive line for the Pack. Yesterday they led off the program talking about the offensive line for the Pack. So I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, Texter. So maybe be a little bit more clearer in there. Giving them a lot of love for Zach Tom and Walker and such, for sure. Especially those two guys. We went through the stats. Still think these are nuts. Zach Tom and the Packers offensive line holding Micah Parsons to his lowest pass rush win rate in his career. And we hit that up quite a bit yesterday. So, all right. We only got a couple minutes to the top here. We'll get to some more race plays. What's your beefs? Hit us up with those texts. We got Badger Chat coming up next hour too with Mr. R.J. Cardinal. Badger basketball back in action tonight, taking on Penn State, the newly minted 11th ranked Badger basketball team. Can they remain undefeated in conference play? The only team to remain undefeated in conference play. We'll hit that up. Plus, women's and men's hockey for the Badgers, and then we'll touch a little bit on the transfer portal. I know some of the moves were made last week, but I want to get RJ's thoughts on. I know we talked a little bit about it. I think it was last Wednesday, but their new linebacker from USC, and kind of taking a look at reshaping this defense through the transfer portal. Luke Fickell and his staff is doing. I know Luke Fickell's also did some changes in terms of the coaching staff and such too. So, but we'll hit that all up with Mr. Cardinal coming up next hour. Marquette last night, or I should say yesterday afternoon, also picking up a win, ending their 2-game losing streak. They dropped down in the rankings though after losing those two. They were originally 11th, but in the updated rankings from yesterday, dropping down to 17th. The Badgers, the second highest ranked Big Ten team, Purdue in at that number 2 spot, Wisconsin at 11. Illinois falling down to number 14 after losing to Maryland this past weekend. So we got that. We'll cover all that with Mr. Cardinal in about 20 or so minutes, about 8:20 here. As I said, we'll get to some race play. So this is probably going to be your last call for What's Your Beef Tuesday. I know we probably don't have a whole lot of What's Your Beef with the Packers, although I do have one here from Ben saying my beef is for everybody who called out Matt LaFleur just a couple of weeks or a couple months ago, and for everybody who called out Jordan Love for not being the guy. You're pretty darn quiet right now. Man up and admit that you were wrong instead of cowering behind your computers and cell phones. Ooh, Ben calling out some peeps. All right. Anybody going to challenge Ben over there? Anybody going to answer Ben over there? I don't know. But last call for What's Your Beef? If you want to win that hot beef or ham sandwich from our good friends over there at Ray's Place on Water Street in Eau Claire. All right, shot clock's going to cut me off here in just a few seconds here. So we're going to take a quick break after these news updates. We'll jump into some more What's Your Beefs, and then we'll hit up some Badger Chat. Plenty to catch up on with RJ here. And we'll get back to some more football talk here too. Latest updates across the NFL. Harbaugh interviewed with the Chargers yesterday. Belichick apparently interviewed with the Falcons. Are we getting close to maybe some hirings, or maybe even some more firings too? Cruising on by, final hour. It's starting to get warm. Also in the studio, but with what's your beefs coming up? Well, I'll get to those coming up here in just a second, but coming up in about 15, 20 minutes or so, we'll talk to RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, Zone Madison. Hit up a lot of things, Badger hoops, Badger hockey, and we'll throw a little football talk in there too with the transfer portal and such. He's coming up, as I said, about 15, 20 minutes or so. Last call for your What's Your Beef? Ray's Place, What's Your Beef? Tuesday. Got a few of these coming through here. Mike, here's my beef. For years, I've been a Cowboy hater from the owner all the way down, but those pictures of poor old Jerry with tears in his eyes, talking about how he was floored, made me feel sad for him. Kind of took a little bit away from the victory. Really? Wow. Got some feelings. Feeling okay. That's not how I thought that was gonna go there. But all right, C-Bomb. My beef is the NFL. Why can't they utilize technology to buzz in on penalties if replay shows something? Get in the official's ear and correct it, like the horse collar on Walker. A personal foul and a clean tackle can change the outcome of games. Every game is sickening. I thought about that too. Now I get it. They want to keep the human element and the human error in the game. You hear that with baseball and umpires and that. It just seems to be inconsistent because we do see in the NFL sometimes where they do call down and change a play or change a call. But you're right. Play like that could completely change the outcome of a game. Completely change it. And when you got rules experts and analysts on the TV saying, yeah, nope, that's wrong, fix it. Fix it. C-Bomb also saying Ben is 1,000% correct. Where's everyone that was calling for Sean Clifford? Everyone love right now. Funny how empty the bus was earlier this year. Wish I could kick them all off. We're going to Rays without the fair weather fans. We've got David. David also saying, my Rays place, what's your beef? Is related to what that other texter just said about Matt LaFleur. A lot of people wanted him fired. A lot of people thought he had lost the locker room. Like you've said many times, Dan, we don't know what is exactly going on inside the building. We're not there. This pure speculation all the time from casual fans is what starts stupid stuff out there. Just simmer down and enjoy the game, people. We've got Mike also saying my beef is the Fox guys at halftime with no credit to the Packers. All how bad the Cowboys played and how to come back. We've got Surveyor saying, C-Bomb, don't be that way. There's always plenty of room on the love train. We also have James, who's, come on, man, listening from Tucson, Arizona. There's your beef with the warm weather. Jealous. My beef has nothing related to sports. My beef, stupid dryer went out. Now I got to go find a new washer and dryer. That's what I got to spend my day doing after this. Got to find somewhere to get a new dryer and washer. No idea where to go. Got to start looking for that. Anybody got any tips? I'm all ears. Can't do laundry. Tried doing it last night. Nope, dryer don't work. No heat. Nothing. Not how I wanted to end my Monday night on a victory Monday. I'll tell you that. So, we've got John. We got John chiming in here saying, my beef is, I think this is a little talk to text. I'm going to decipher this. My beef is the national peeps not giving a lot of love for the Packers. All about what went wrong with Dallas. Okay, kind of like that's a few of you have kind of said that over there too. Sean with the text on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Loved your 5x5. A lot of good stuff. Like you said, though, there's probably a bunch of different other reasons or ways that the Packers could win or lose this game. My big one is going to be the offensive line play for the Packers. Can they continue to play at a high level like they have been playing? Excuse me. got a little sidetracked over there. This one is from Eric. Eric? Yep, Eric, because we got an Eric and an Aaron. So we'll get to Eric first. Eric says, my beef, my Ray's place, what's your beef is, I haven't won one yet. Well, maybe you'll win one here, Eric. He goes on to say, my beef so far is not a lot of credit from other fans. I know you mentioned him yesterday, but I think a lot of people also owe an apology to the Packers general manager. He has done a fantastic job with this group. Time to give credit to where credit's due. It's okay to admit if you were wrong. Heck, I was wrong about Love, and I questioned some of Brian's decisions too. But the man obviously knows what he's doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the position that he is in. Aaron, with a raised place, what's your beef? Aaron is going on to say, my beef is, let me bring it up here because I had another window up here. Aaron says, my raised place, what's your beef Tuesday, is the fact that we've got to watch this game on Saturday night. How am I going to stay sober all day up to that tailgate? Okay, yeah. I did see somebody have a little fun with that one too. Like, oh boy, that's going to be a long day for Packers fans, and then a Saturday night because they might be doing a lot of tailgating at home or anything like that beforehand. So, but all right. What's okay? We got a couple other ones out there. I'll get to here in a little bit. So, but yeah. Well, last call for some of your raised place. What's your beef? I need somebody to go through these. We're getting a lot of them coming through here now too. So, in case you're just joining us, if you want to do a little trip around the NFL world, this dropped a little earlier, but Jason Kelsey sounds like he is retiring. That's the reports out there. So shortly after the Eagles season ended at the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jason Kelsey calling it a career. Travis, his brother, still alive in the postseason, but sounds like he's going to continue playing over there too. But I kind of, Kelsey, I didn't realize he was a six-time All-Pro. I didn't realize that. I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. But man, got more time to do podcasts now though too, right? So, but when you look at some of the divisional matchups now in the NFL, when you look at this, besides Packers 49ers, is the most intriguing game of the weekend Buffalo and Kansas City. I mean, that's the matchup everybody wanted to see at some point. I look at it. For me, I hope Buffalo gets a little bit more healthier on defense. Like Rasul Douglas coming back. I know they had a couple injuries yesterday, but I really hope they get some guys back because I want it to be a good game. It looks like it should be a good game. On paper, it should be a good game. You got the storylines there. I just don't want it to be like the Miami game where Miami just ran out of defensive players and they were pulling veterans off the street. Like Miami and Kansas City, I think could have been really fun if Miami was a little bit more healthier. And I think the weather affected too with Miami and such, but that one should have been really good. I just really hope Buffalo gets a little bit more healthier for this game and we get a classic between Kansas and Buffalo. Other than that, Tampa Bay, I just don't know what version of Tampa Bay is going to show up either. Tampa Bay is a team that is so interesting to me because at the beginning of the year, we looked at that team and I kind of forgot about it till the graphics showed yesterday. But you remember Tampa Bay last year too was 8-9 with Tom Brady's final year. They did get to the postseason, but they weren't like the Tampa Bay of the year prior and such. But kind of a win improvement similar to Green Bay with Jordan Love and, replacing a Hall of Famer and such. But Baker Mayfield, I shouldn't say I don't think he will, but will he get some votes for comeback player of the year? Maybe kind of similar to Geno Smith from the year prior. But you look at Tampa Bay, at the beginning of the year, and we were looking at them and they still got some really good players. Mike Evans is still there. White is still there, a linebacker. David, linebacker. Chris Godwin's still there. Antonio Winfield might be one of the most underrated secondary safety players in the league. had a really good year this year. I mean, they got some dudes over there. Could they give the Lions some fits? Can they go into Detroit? Like right now, the expectation should be Detroit's, I mean, NFC Championship, man. Can you imagine if it is Packers and Detroit in the NFC Championship and Detroit is hosting that thing? Whew. That environment is going to be loud. It'll be really loud. They got to pull out all the stops for that one to make that just a raucous, I mean, a insane place to go. I don't know if I'd want to go there and play. I don't know how to gauge the Tampa team. They dropped 32 points last night, but how much of that too was because Philly sure looked like they just kind of gave up and they didn't want to be there, for crying out loud. I don't know for coaching wise. Harbaugh had the interview with the Chargers yesterday. Apparently, Belichick had an interview with the Falcons last night. Mike Tomlin was asked about his future after the game yesterday. Dude didn't answer. He literally just walked away from the podium. There was some thoughts, some speculation that he's going to take some time. I think it was Mike Florio who said this on Saturday from Pro Football Talk, that whenever the Steelers season was going to be over with, he was going to step back and kind of take some time to think about his career. Maybe take some time off. Does he take a year off, kind of like Sean Payton, and then maybe get back into it, or just looking for a new gig? But the fact that he literally didn't answer it, heard the question and walked off. I get it. Emotions are running high after a playoff loss. All of a sudden, your season is done. Emotions are high, and then you got to sit there and answer questions. It's part of the job. It is. But we're also human in that element too. But if Mike Tomlin is available, let's just play a game here really quick. Philly decides to fire their head coach Sirianni. Dallas decides to fire Mike McCarthy. Okay. You got two openings of two playoff caliber teams. Two teams that are probably going to have Super Bowl goals into next year. Let's play a little matchmaker. Who would be the perfect match for those two teams? Is it Belichick and Dallas, like everybody is saying? Or do you put Mike Tomlin into that situation? Or do you put a Mike Vrabel in there? I saw some people talking about Mike Vrabel would be a perfect fit in Philly. If this is a team where the players have kind of lost, or the coaches have lost the locker room, the players kind of, aren't listening to the coaching anymore, or just kind of checked out, Vrabel would be a guy that could come in and change that immediately. Because I feel like if Mike Tomlin's available, Mike Tomlin's going to be a very sought-after head coaching candidate. I know there was a rumor earlier in the season about Washington potentially wanting to maybe make a trade or would love to add him. Could that be a situation over there? I don't know. But I feel like if Tomlin all of a sudden is available, boy, you've got some intriguing candidates out there. And we haven't even mentioned Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll sounds like he wants to coach, but is there a team? I haven't seen anybody saying they're interviewing him or they're matching him up with anybody, not like Belichick. But if the Eagles and the Cowboys job all of a sudden become available, where's that perfect match? Where is that matchmaker? I like Tom. I think Tomlin would be good in Philly too. Now it would be weird, Philly, Pittsburgh, that sort of thing. I don't know if he'd make that jump, but I feel like that would be a guy that could go into that situation. And he's obviously very used to a very dedicated fan base already. I think he could change that instantly. I think Vrabel can go in there and do the same thing. Could Tomlin work with like a Jerry Jones though? I don't know. Marcus Spears, I thought yesterday, if you didn't see the clip, maybe I'll play it a little bit later on because we got to bring RJ on here in a little bit. But Marcus Spears, who spent time playing for the Cowboys, he's on ESPN now. So I mean, he's been in that building, and then he finished up his career with the Ravens, spent some time over there. He went after Jerry Jones. He went after Jerry Jones. Like he's like, you know, kind of comparing it to how the Ravens go. He said, you know, he saw the Ravens owner for his tenure maybe twice. Kind of calling out Jerry Jones and just saying, you know, stop always talking about the coaching and all that. Just let coaches coach, get a GM in there, kind of sort of. I'm paraphrasing, but kind of calling out how involved the owner is in the football operations. So that's a former Cowboy player because a lot of times, I mean, when you hear former Cowboy players talk, I mean, it's all about the star. Irvin, right? Michael Irvin I don't feel like he ever has a bad thing to say about Dallas. Aikman might be one of the first few times I've heard a former Cowboy player kind of calling out how the process goes over there. All right, let's take a quick break and switching gears here a little bit. Let's talk some Badgers. Badger basketball up to number 11 in the latest rankings. We'll hit up RJ about that.
More softness, less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
Skilled trade workers are the backbone of every community, and also the Army National Guard. Soldiers trained to keep the power flowing, engines running, and in every other trade needed to accomplish the mission. These soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession by visiting NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
Service Master of Chippewa Valley is your local expert when it comes to fire and water damage, carpet and air duct cleaning, mold remediation, and trauma. They're when you need them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Trust comes in the yellow truck. Learn more at ServiceMasterChippewaValley.com.
His words can move you. Seriously, they can pick you up and carry you to the other side of the room. Or maybe that was the poltergeist again.
They're here.
The Dan Kasper Show, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
A lot of you right now probably thinking about ice fishing, maybe not necessarily hunting. I get it, that time of the year. But before you know it, spring turkey hunting will be here. Then it's fall and duck season, then deer season. So time flies when you're having fun, remember. That also means right now is the time of year where if you are thinking about getting that new shotgun for turkey or duck hunting or a new deer rifle, you should be thinking about purchasing that firearm right now. But you want to make sure you get the one that you're looking for. So who do you turn to for help? That's easy. That's Tilden Gun. Tilden Gun not only has the biggest selection in the Chippewa Valley, but also at the best prices. And their website, tildengun.com, is so easy to use and browse and order from. But if you want some help in finding that right firearm for you, or you want to check out their used collection, just stop on over to Tilden Gun, and Sean and Hunter will help you find just what you're looking for. So we may be in a little bit of an off season here with hunting, but now is the time of year to get ready for the next season. Get a leg up this year with the help from Tilden Gun. Badger Hoops back in action tonight, taking on Penn State. Badgers in the newest rankings, moving up 4 spots after all the upsets in college basketball last week, moving up to 4 spots to number 11 in the country. The Badgers, the only undefeated team in conference play in the Big Ten. They'll try to keep that going alive tonight with Penn State. Let's bring in our Badger analyst, Mr. R.J. Cardinal, for this morning. RJ, what has been the biggest thing that you've noticed different about this Badger basketball team so far this year, or something that has really kind of stood out to you? I know a lot of people are talking about the offense, and after the game, was it last week? I think it was Ohio State. A lot of the guys on the Big Ten Network talking about this being the best offense that Greg Gard has ever had during his tenure. Is it that simple? Is it just that this is the biggest thing that's been noticeable about this team this year has been their offensive efficiency so far?
Yeah, I mean, overall, looking at them when they're shooting 47% from the field this year, so you really like what you're seeing there. For what we've been saying in seasons of late, where free throws will kill this team down as you get down in the minutes and they can't make them, they're making free throws this year. It seems everything we have been kind of harping on the past few seasons is starting to come together, and it's making this team, whether we want to say it's the best offensive team they've ever had. I mean, I think we've seen better offensive teams, in terms of higher point totals, but yeah, with points per possession and all that, this team is doing pretty well, and it's awesome to see.
Of the guys that returned from last year, the Tyler Walls, the Stephen Crawls, the Chucky Hepburns, who do you think has made the biggest jump in terms of improvement this year, in your opinion?
It's even though points may be down this year, I like what I'm seeing from Chucky as a distributor and on the defensive end of the ball. It's I think it's what he's being asked to do, whereas before he was being asked to be more of the scorer, which now he doesn't have to be. And I think it's really helping out the rest of his game. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Chucky when you're almost averaging 2 steals a game. And I thought that was low, considering the past few games there's back-to-back possessions where he's getting steals, you know. So I really like what I'm seeing out of Chucky. And then I guess when you're seeing good improvement from both Crowell and Wall, as we see them becoming a little more assertive down low, both of them. They still have their tendencies to kind of wait on things instead of just going up for it. They do the pump fakes and all that to try to draw a foul, but then it comes and they don't, end up with a basket to get an and one and have to rely on them at the line, which both of them are shooting better than they have from the free throw line last year. But it's mainly Chucky for me.
Last week when we were talking about this team in AJ Store and, maybe the straw that stirs the drink or the guy. And then, I think it was the Ohio State game last week. First half, it was AJ Store, dominating, making us look like we're smart. And then, second half kind of slowed down. But then it was Max Klesmit time. And you look at his last couple games, 18 points against Ohio State, 24 against Northwestern. Would you say if AJ is number one, Max is maybe the next guy, and kind of talk about what he has done so far in these last couple games here?
A guy who can take over, and maybe not even be the number two, but be the guy who, if needed, can be called upon. And I think that's a little different than being a number two. Because a number two usually means you're both kind of going strong,
Mm-hmm.
But he has his halves.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And and defensively, he never seems to be off. So court wise, he's good to be on the court there. But yeah, he's definitely one. If you start to give him good looks, he will make you pay for it and can take over a game. But like I said, I don't see it as a true number two because pretty much everybody not named AJ Store is your number two.
Yeah.
Where I think each one of these guys has the ability to take over a game if they are called upon to do so. It's just not necessarily going to be that guy every night. And we've talked about that for years with Badger teams on it doesn't need to be a specific player to be a number two on the team. You need your number one, but then this is a team of guys who can step up, and we're talking about a different guy every week.
Yeah. RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, joining us here this morning. So Badgers, as we mentioned, number 11 in the latest rankings, moving up 4 spots from last week. You look at Joe Lenardi's bracketology, he's got the Badgers as a 2 seed. Ken Palm, they're up there. I know quad wins, them and Purdue, are up there too. Badgers trending in the right direction. They're looking really good. But RJ, where's your confidence level that this is a team that can maybe live up to these expectations that they're setting for themselves right now?
Well, look at some of the games they have coming up here. You're going to start seeing some, I was going to say better competition, but in your Big Ten schedule so far, you've faced some pretty darn good teams who are winning. But you're going to start facing a little tougher tasks as we move forward here. And I think with that, there's going to be a few more challenges. You're going to be, starting tonight, you're on the road in Happy Valley. It's not a easy place to play. We've talked about it before. Anytime you can get a road win in the Big Ten is good. You got to travel to Minnesota next week. You got Indiana coming to the Kohl Center on Friday. And yeah, you're just kind of hopefully building up some more wins here as you're getting ready to play Purdue in Madison and the first Sunday of February. But that's not going to be easy. You go to Minnesota, Michigan State comes back. Hopefully they don't, play with a chip on their shoulder after we beat them in the Breslin Center earlier in the season. You travel to Nebraska in that time, which Wisconsin's never played well there. So you do have a little bit of a stretch here where it could be a little worrisome in the fact that we're looking at some teams here where, it could end up being a little more of a rocky road for the Badgers moving forward. But as long as they're playing like they are, defensively they're doing very well. Offensively, just not really missing from game to game since they played Providence. And I'd like to say they go 4-5-0 before they play Purdue, but I think we all know that's probably not really going to happen. But you do have some games here against teams that are either 500 or better in the Big Ten, and you're 2 games ahead of Purdue and Indiana. Penn State's 2-4 in the Big Ten this year so far, but I mean they're a team that I think can catch lightning in a bottle and make you pay for it. It's still a conference that anytime you go in and have just a little bit of an off day, you're going to lose.
I saw this the other day for Wisconsin here. Number 9 in Ken Palm rankings, number 11 net rankings, AP poll 11. They're one of only 2 teams in the country with 8 or more quad 1 plus quad 2 wins. Purdue's got 9, Wisconsin's got 8. A lot of stuff out there. Is there one of these things, one of these rankings, one of these tools that you tend to weigh a little bit more, you look at a little bit more, maybe not the AP poll, or do you look at Ken Palm's a little bit more? Which one's your favorite, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I have rankings, where it takes a lot more than just the eye test in. And I mean, heck, there's AP voters that didn't have Wisconsin on their ballot. Like, what's the point of that?
Right.
Like, give me those metrics-based rankings, Ken Palm, the net rankings, all that. And I mean, even you look at your quad 1 and 2 wins, 1 of 2 teams in the country to have that, 8 or more wins, and that's something that the tournament committee looks at, and they talk about it like almost every year now. So and you know what, they roll from time to time based on how some teams are doing, but still they end up looking at the time you played those teams. So like, even if you ended up beating a team earlier in the year and then it could become a quad 3 loss or win later in the year, depending on how that team had played, going forward. But give me the things that aren't relying on a sports writer who's not watching every game anymore, even though they say I can't because of my job. Well, your job is to watch games. So if you're not at an arena watching the team you're covering live, you better make a very concerted effort to have as many games on as possible to try to watch teams that you don't necessarily watch, because leaving a team that is currently ranked number 11 in the nation off your ballot for, the first 3 months of the year is pretty inexcusable, and maybe there should be penalties for filling out your ballot very stupidly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just Wisconsin. That's like anybody. It's it's gross negligence if you're doing that kind of thing. But I mean, you're either saying the Big Ten's a bad basketball conference, or you're thinking Wisconsin is just getting very lucky in all their wins, and both cannot be true.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, give me those rankings based on the statistics, strength of schedule, and all that kind of stuff. I think those are a little more helpful, especially in college basketball, where you have over 300 and some odd teams. You kind of have to keep tabs on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. Transitioning to hockey here quick. The men's team going up against Lindenwood this past weekend. Skated to a 5-0 victory on Friday, but tied it up. That they had to get to a tie on Saturday. Off week this week before they take on Michigan and Minnesota after that. But was that tie on Saturday a little surprising for the Badgers?
Oh yeah, Lindenwood is not a good hockey team. They have a couple of wins versus some not great teams out there, but I think maybe a little bit of the 5-0 win the night before had something to do with that. They seem to not be as crisp as they were on Friday night, on Saturday, and yeah, like they had to earn the tie. I mean, they had to come from behind to tie the game and essentially get the extra point. That's meaningless because it's not a conference game. So outside of the overall standings, and you're counting your points that way, that does nothing for anything outside of saying you earned the extra point on the night. But yeah, the night before probably really helped out with the attitude that the team took the ice with Saturday night. But hey, you dug out a tie at least. You didn't go home with a loss to Lindenwood. And yeah, you got a week off here before you got to travel to Ann Arbor, and hopefully kind of take it to them again when you beat them when they were the number 4/3. I forget which one, third or fourth team in the country. But yeah, you got 2 gritty wins at home against them. So hopefully you can go on the road and take it to Michigan again and come out with at least a split on the road, and then the Gophers come into Madison.
On the women's side against St. Thomas, I mean, outscoring them 12-1, and you kind of look at the last couple weeks. I mean, it's been nothing but offense. Merrimack and then St. Thomas, and they got Minnesota State coming up, who they beat earlier this year 6-0 and 9-0. So, I mean, it just seems like potentially this offense has another opportunity to put up a bunch of goals this weekend as they get closer to wrapping up this regular season and into the postseason.
You come to the later portion of your schedule in the WCHA here after your month off, so maybe some fresh legs will did the trick. But yeah, so you just got done with St. Thomas, like you said, heading up to Mankato this weekend for Friday, Saturday, and really, so Duluth, St. Cloud, Bemidji before you end the season. With 2 series at home against Minnesota and Ohio State, which the first time you played those 2 teams, you came out with 1 victory and 3 losses. So something to look forward to there, to hopefully, kind of position yourself to be one of the top seeds in the WCHA playoffs.
To kind of wrap it up, RJ, I know it was middle of last week, but I wanted to get your thoughts. Badger football, they really seems like they overhauled their linebacker core through the transfer portal. And last week they picked up this kid Tackett Curtis, who was with USC for a year, and the Badgers landed him. And there seems to be a lot of hype, a lot of talk and excitement surrounding him. But then also this linebacker group. I mean, Leon Lowry's in there. You got, Pius and Thomas, and now Curtis over there. Can you tell us a little bit about Curtis? Because it sounds like Wisconsin tried to recruit him before he went to USC. Can you tell us a little bit why everybody's excited about him and just the overhaul at this linebacking position?
Yeah, he is a 4-star linebacker out of high school, out of the state of Louisiana, and I'm pretty sure I've been reading he is the first recruit out of Louisiana to commit to Wisconsin. So there's that. So much so that you even had the transfer from Northern Iowa decommit and left yesterday, or I think it was, or Sunday, and decided to head over to Stanford. So you had enough of the overhaul that somebody decided I got to leave to get some playing time. But yeah, Tackett, by everything you've seen on, and he was a high priority for the last coaching staff too. So it was probably not coming to Wisconsin in general there, but it sounds like he at least liked Wisconsin when he came and visited. Who knows if the coaching changed his idea of where he was going, but yeah, definitely a big get. He's a kid that probably can be a guy pushing for not just playing time, but a starting spot immediately. And that's the kind of talent you're getting with Tackett Curtis. And it will be interesting to see now with the amount of guys they've brought in for the linebacking room, what that's all going to look like. But, you even still have some guys who stayed, whether they move positions or not. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the spring competition moves forward here, and then into fall camp with the linebackers, just to see the kind of overhaul that they've done to the unit.
Absolutely, definitely. He's RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst. Appreciate it as always, buddy, for joining us here this morning. Hopefully next week when we catch up with you, Badger hoops still undefeated in conference play as we get closer to that Purdue matchup at the beginning of February.
Absolutely, we can only hope, but like I said, starts tonight, and you're playing a 8 o'clock tip, so a 9 o'clock tip in Happy Valley tonight. But yeah, tough to get road wins in the Big Ten. So hopefully you can not play down to your competition and pull something out here and get a victory moving forward.
Absolutely. All right. Well, stay warm, buddy, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Okay, sir?
So, see you later.
You got it. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, Zone in Madison. Let's take our final break, and we've got picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room. We'll pick that Badger game coming up in just a few minutes. let's wrap things up here as my mic falls again, a tradition unlike any other in this studio. Every day, I swear, for the last week, this mic has fallen off again. Try to fix it here. So if you hear a weird noise, that's it. Time for picks and predicts, brought to you by the Elbow Room. Looking for somewhere to catch the game, 49ers, Packers. Well, you got a place to go to here right here in Eau Claire. Get some 49ers swag up, got some Packers swag up in the hollowed walls of the Elbow Room, located right next to Banbury Place over there. So 8 p.m. No, 7:15 kickoff. You want a pregame over there anyway. So grab yourself some man cave lights over at the Elbow Room and taking the game over there. We got some interesting hoops games tonight. So I know I'm kind of running out of time here. Let's start off with the NBA world. Nuggets visiting the 76ers. Philly favored by 2.5. I'll go Philly. And I think they cover in this one. I'll go with the Nuggets just because it's at home. Or excuse me, the 76ers because it's at home. If it was in Denver, I'd probably pick, but I'll ride with Philly tonight. We got the Kings going up against the Suns for this one. Suns are just 500 at home. They're 11-11, yet they're favored by 4.5. I'm actually going to go with the Kings tonight. I'll go with the Kings. We got the Thunder taking on the Clippers. And the Clippers, 7.5 favorites at home. Tell you what, I'll take the Clippers, but they don't cover. That's disrespectful to the Clippers there, or to the Thunder. Disrespectful. Come on now. Clippers win, but they don't cover. Let's go to some college basketball then. All right, let's hit up some hoops. So before we get to the Wisconsin one, we got a couple of ranked games tonight. Number 24, Iowa State visits number 20 BYU. Right now, BYU is favored by 4.5. I'll take Iowa State though. Even on the road, I'll take Iowa State in that one. We got 16 Utah State, the home of Jordan Love. 16-1, 4-0 in conference play, visiting New Mexico, who's 14-3, 2-2 in conference play. New Mexico, even though they're unranked, they're favored by 5.5. Give me Utah State. I'm on the Jordan Love train right now. So, and then we got Wisconsin visiting Penn State. Late tip time, right? Late tip time tonight, 8 p.m. So Wisconsin's a 5.5 favorite right now. Wisconsin goes in and they win. I know it's a tough place to play, but I think they win, and I think they cover. I'll go with the Wisconsin cover tonight. Maybe a little closer, but I think in the end they'll cover. All right, those are your picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room. Again, I will update the pick challenge up on our website, sportstalk1051.com. I'll plug in the winners. Did that yesterday, but I got to do it for the games from yesterday. Then we'll add a new slate of games to pick. So that'll be up later today. Just go to sportstalk1051.com, click on that win tab, and check out where the standings are. Even if you didn't make picks last week, you can jump on in on this one, okay? Bragging rights are at stake. Bragging rights are at stake. So check it later. Maybe give me till midday or something like that. A little later on this morning. We'll get updated for some weeks on there. Each week, we're going to have some new custom picks out there. I'll put some Bucks games on there too, along with the playoff games for this weekend too. And we'll throw some Badger ones on there too, and some really good college matchups up there. All right, big thanks. We're going to go with Ben for our Raise Place What's Your Beef winner. Ben kind of sparked everybody else really with his What's Your Beef. So congrats, Ben. I will get a hold of you and get that in the mail so you can head on over to Ray's Place and enjoy your free hot beef or ham sandwich, especially with the colder temps. Maybe get a side of the Spanish stew. If you have not tried the Spanish stew at Ray's Place, you are missing out. Missing out. Tomorrow, Wednesday, halfway through the week already, getting closer to Saturday. Huh? Yeah. We'll continue to kind of preview Packers, 49ers. Your homework assignment, kiddos. Okay, your homework assignment for tomorrow. We did it last week. I'm superstitious, so we're going to do it again, kind of like we did the 5x5 today. The top 10 most important Packer people in this game for the 49ers. I hit on some last week. Not to brag or toot a little bit. We had Darnell Savage on our top 10. We had Jair Alexander on our top 10. We had Aaron Jones as number 1. Jordan Love was number 2. Matt LaFleur was in the top 5. Joe Barry was in there. We had, often was it Zach Tom was on there too. So I mean, we did pretty well. Let's do it again. So your homework assignment, kiddos, for tomorrow: number 2 pencils, college ruled paper. Turn in your top 10 Packer people. That's why I say people, because you can include coaches on this thing. I don't want to say players. I want you to include some coaches in that. So top 10 Packer people in order. 1 being the most important, 10 still being important, but not as important as 1. Big thanks for all the texts and tweets and messages today. Appreciate it. DP and Adanitz, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, all right? Let's meet up 6 a.m. Talk to you then.